decision making?
Yeah, the KRW report was important, and also the police department's annual report that they put out every year. Those two documents together have been the most helpful in helping me to chart a course of direction for the police department.
So in your time so far, what do you feel like you've been able to accomplish from that report?
The report talked about community policing, and so we've got a community policing unit established. We're calling it the Neighborhood Police Unit. We've got four designated areas across the city where we've got those officers working. We actually implemented that unit formally on August the 1st, so they're out there doing their thing now. For some members of the community, bicycles were important. We've got the bicycles on order. We've got a sergeant and an officer designated to become certified in police bicycling so that they can come back and train and certify the other officers. So we'll be doing that part of it next month. But we've got facilities outlined where they're going to be working, and those agreements are over at city attorney's office being reviewed. So we've made good headway on that.
That's been happening so far?
Yes, we did reallocate officers from other units. We have a unit called PACE, and their job is to go out and catch guys that we're trying to find right now that we have warrants for more serious offenses. We had two units that were doing that. So we took one of those units, 8 officers and 1 sergeant, and then we dedicated them to community policing. And then we are going to allow the other unit to have flexible hours so that they can work day or night as needed to go out. And they're both units are really doing a good job. And in some cases, they've been working hand in hand.
Is there anything you feel like you haven't been able to address yet?
There are a number of things that, besides the community policing, I've also been able to address getting a domestic violence unit established. We've made some headway on getting our property and evidence room straightened out, although we have a bit of a way to go there. They talked about establishing some type of employee relationship committee is what we're calling it here, where the chief and the command staff can actually interact with people in the department. We've done some of those things. I think establishing promotion ceremonies and award ceremony has helped improve morale, but the report had a lot of issues in there, and I have not been able to make headway on all of those. One of the ones that is going to be the biggest challenge is reducing our response times. I just think those are too high. I think we've made some headway on our high priority calls, but we have citizens that call for more routine matters, and it's taking way too long for us to get there, in my opinion. And we're working on that problem, but before I make major changes to how our patrol force is deployed, I've got to have data back, and so they're working on getting me that on the specific things I need to see what's the hold up, when are we having our peak call times. Some of that's been coming in, but it's been coming in slower than what I would like. But our IT department came through last week and showed us a really good tool that they've implemented this week. So I should be getting some good data on how we deploy our patrol forces here shortly, and then we'll see what we can do about getting those response times down. So that's probably my biggest challenge right now.
Okay, so moving forward for the remainder of your time in office, you plan to reduce response times. Is there any other projects you want to start, or something that you see that you'd like to do?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that I would like to do. We've also have some issues with how we have our patrol vehicles allocated. So, I've got some of the staff also getting me data on that to see how we can better assure that we've got enough. I would like more marked units, more black and white police cars out on the street. But in particular, though, when a patrol crew comes in ready to go to work, that we've got enough cars. And there are cars out there, but it's just the way they're allocated is not as efficient as what I would like. And so we're working on that as well. And we've got a host of things that we want to get done. I would also, I've looked at our traffic fatality numbers. I think that there were 24 traffic fatalities in Amarillo last year. That's a pretty high number. A good number of those were related to alcohol, drunk driving. So we've got to do a combination of things, I think, to get that down, work with traffic engineering. The 3 E's, I call them. It's engineering, it's education, and it's enforcement. And so I haven't even had a chance to even really start in on that area yet. But long term, I think that's something that the police department needs to try to address as well, is the number of crashes we have, and especially the number of crashes we have that result in a death. Well, how I determined what changes I needed to make was, of course, I read the report and I took what the report considered, and then I talked to the command staff here and I talked to the officers. I've ridden out with the police officers, got their in opinions about things, and I've talked to community groups out here. I've talked to other journalists here in the city. I've talked to the city executive staff and some council members. And then I kind of reached my own conclusion as to what I think I needed to focus my time on changing it. So it wasn't just I just read the report and okay, they heard this from this people, and so therefore that must be important. So it was that whole conglomerate of inputs that I got is what I determined and what I'm still using to make decisions on what needs to be changed.
Great. Is there an update on how long you'll be staying with us?
Right now, the city's plan is to have the new chief selected by about mid-October, so I would assume that that will probably be about the time. So.
And then you said that for community policing, you guys used to have 2 PACE units. Is that what
Right.
it's called, PACE?
Yeah, we had one that worked primarily in the daytime and one that worked primarily at night.
So then now you took one of those, made them community police officers. So what do they do now? They are just interact with the community. Is that their
The
role?
PACE, I mean, PACE or the NPOs?
The community policing.
The community policing officers are within their geographical areas, which are smaller than regular beats. Those areas were selected by the command staff based off of where we have both calls for service. We have kind of a higher number of calls for service, a little bit more, criminal activity and those things in those communities. And we also have quality of life issues in those communities. And the quality of life piece is important because where you have more abandoned vehicles and homes that are abandoned and things, that's where you will, and more graffiti, that's where you will tend to have more criminal activity. So their job is to get out and to answer calls in those areas when they're at work, to try to help the residents with some of those quality of life issues by sometimes coordinating with other city staff like like building safety or code enforcement. So they're doing that. We've also I've attended at least one meeting where the NPOs were present, talking about an ongoing problem. And even though they follow the principles of community-oriented policing, that's also in conjunction with something called problem-oriented policing. It's a standard model that we use called the SARA model, where we look at problems, how we analyze it, how we develop a response, and we go back and do an assessment, is what SARA stands for. So they're using that to try to address some of the problems that the community is bringing forth. But one of the key things that they're trying to do, though, is establish relationships with people in those communities, with the churches, the faith-based groups, the businesses, the residents, and letting them know who they are and letting them know that they can also call them when they have problems, and not just crime problems, but also quality of life issues, barking dogs that are barking too loud, issues with neighbors, disputes, and things like that. That's what they're out there doing, and so far they're picking up on that. The bicycles are kind of important to the Amarillo community, I think, for those groups, and they're a part of it. But these guys can do their job whether they're on a bike, whether they're in a car, whether they're on foot, and in some cases they're going to be doing it in all three of those modes.
Anything you want to add about what you've done here so far, or anything that you think we should know, or anything you want to say?
No, I think we've covered quite a bit of ground already today.